Howdy guys, thanks for stopping by the channel. You're watching Boco's Diesel Garage, and today I'm going to be working on this 1982 Mercedes 300D right here behind me, and I'm going to be replacing the engine mounts and show you guys the best and easiest way on how to do it. So let's get started. So we got a few other Mercedes diesels in the shop here today. I'm hoping to be doing some more videos on those as well. So like and subscribe to the channel if you are interested in these older diesel cars like I am. But today I'm going to focus on replacing the motor mounts. This particular model W123 has an OM617 diesel engine, and new motor mounts from the factory are Lamforder brand, and they'll look like this. This is a new one. Lamforder is the original equipment manufacturer for Mercedes. I was able to confirm that. There seems to be some confusion about that online if you do some reading, but they are the original equipment manufacturer. You can actually see Mercedes logo is shaved off over on here on this side, and it has the two blue dots, which I'll show you in the service manual here later on. But just wanted to show you guys everything I have here. Got the new one over here, got another one in the box. These two are just to show you guys what can happen to these engine mounts if you don't replace them in time. You can obviously see how bad this one is. That's not very firm anymore at all. There's a lot of play in it. That one I replaced on a different car, and it was way overdue. And then this one here I wanted to show and point out to you guys something else that can happen to these. This is that they collapse. So this one, if you compare it to the new one over here, this one just sits a lot lower. I'll try and go down with the camera a little. Yeah, you can see it pretty well right now. You see how much lower that one is. So although this one hasn't, fallen apart, it's still pretty firm. It was also time to replace that one. Both of those were on a different car though. I just wanted to show you guys that. And the tools that I will be using right here. These engine mounts are held in with these two little bolts, one on each side. It requires a 6mm, one of these here. Then the big bolt comes in from the bottom, and pretty easy to take out if you have an 8mm, I believe here. Let's see, yep, 8mm for that one. And then the secret I use to get them out easily is this little tool right here and this little 6mm bit, and I'll show you guys that later in the video. It really makes it a lot easier to get them out, because when they are mounted in the engine, they have this cover plate on there, and it can make it a real pain to get to these little bolts that will normally be right underneath there. But if you do it in the right order and with the right tools, it is actually a pretty easy job. So before I get started here, I wanted to show you guys the factory service manual. This might actually help you to order the correct engine mounts, because there is a difference. And this is also a really good manual to have. It goes over the torque values over here on the top, and then here we have the differences in engine mounts. I wouldn't be too worried about the torque specs on it, as long as you don't over tighten these little bolts. That's the main thing. You get those too tight, you can really strip out the head in it, and it becomes really hard to take them out. But they don't actually have a torque spec for this one. They just have a torque spec for the big one, big bolt that comes in from the bottom anyway. So as for the mounts here, it goes over different kinds that are available. Like I told you, Lamforder is the original manufacturer for these. There's also aftermarket ones. I wouldn't recommend them based on what I have heard. I've heard people had to replace theirs already after like 6 months or so, and they're just more prone to collapse. They don't quite use the same material. As you can see here, there is a difference in the shore hardness of these, so they will look exactly the same. If you have a 116 or a W126 model. There is a difference. The 123 uses the same for both left and right side. And then, interestingly, there is no shielding plate on the right on the W126 as well. And both 116 and 126 use the different engine mount on the right versus the left. But this 123 I'm working on uses the same kind on both sides. This is this one with the two blue dots. Obviously, if you're using some kind of aftermarket engine mounts, yeah, they probably don't have that option for you to order the correct kind. So then here's a couple more pages of detailed instructions on what to do, how to support it and everything. I also have the Haynes manual that I showed you guys really quickly here. This is all they have on it in the Haynes manual. Totally useless when it comes to that. It basically tells you to lift up the vehicle, undo the bolts, swap the mounts, and that's about it. So I am thankful for that factory manual. But here we go. Here is the original motor mount. I want to show you guys that before I get started here. It's kind of hard to see. I will be pointing at it right there. So this is the original. You can, I don't know if it shows up on camera, but you can definitely tell. Here, this might be a little better view right there. I can definitely tell, I was looking at it, that that one is in need of replacement, and when we get it out, you'll probably get a little better view. So in the factory service manual, it talks about disconnecting this over here before you lift up the engine. The last car I did this on, I didn't actually have to do that. But one thing you do need to do is disconnect this, get rid of the air cleaner box on the top here, so you can much easier get to the engine mount that is somewhere underneath there that you can't even really see right now. So that is going to be the first step here, so we're going to get rid of that. Alright, so remove this piece, took the top off, then there's 3 10mm bolts like this. I undid those, and then you should just be able to lift this off like that. And if you undo that screw right there, it should just slide right out like this. And press that out of the way. Now you can actually see the motor mount down there. This one, other than that it's really greasy on the plate that covers the motor mount, I can't really tell if it's bad or not, just from looking at it. But I'm assuming these are still original and probably both need to be replaced, so I'm definitely gonna replace both of them. Next step is gonna be taking this fan shroud off. That's just these 2 clips that you can pull up on both sides, and you don't actually need to completely take this out. We just need to loosen it up so when we lift up the engine later on, it's not gonna make contact and damage the fan blades here. So got everything out of the way, got these undone. Once these little clips on the top are gone, on the bottom is only held in by 2 little tabs that slide into a hole in the bottom there. So once you lift this up a little, it comes loose, and you can just leave it like that. You just gotta have to be really careful when you lift up the engine here. Make sure nothing gets caught, but it should be fine as long as you just disconnect it. And like I said, factory service manual tells you to disconnect this as well, but I've done it before without having to do that, so I'm gonna try that again. If we have to just keep a close eye on it. If we need to disconnect it, we will. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention to you guys is that the turbo diesel models on the 123 series, as well as the W126 series, if you're replacing engine mounts, you're gonna run into these engine shock absorbers as well. The 300D naturally aspirated and 240D did not have them. So you don't have to worry about it if you're doing it on one of those. All I'm going to do in this video is undo this 10mm bolt on the bottom to be able to lift the engine up. But if you wanted to replace them, there's 2 more bolts on the top. The reason I'm not going to replace it, is because they are extremely expensive. I believe it's about $60 just for the little shock absorber itself, another $20 for the rubber mounts on the bottom, and then this big mount on the top, which usually goes bad. You can see there's a lot of play in this one, is $100 a piece. So, and there's one on each side, so you do the math on that, but I think it's going to cost you over $300 to replace those, and they don't really do much. I actually read in my Mercedes service manual that the only reason they put these on the turbo diesel models is to prevent the engine from rocking when you shut it off. So when the engine is shut off, it stops very abruptly, and it usually does a little twitch like that, and just rocks a little. They put these on there to prevent it from doing that. It probably does put less stress on your rubber motor mounts if you have good little shock absorbers on there, and I'm sure it makes everything a little bit smoother overall. But I think just for general driving, you're not really going to notice a difference. And since they are so expensive, I am not going to replace it on this car. But of course, I'll leave that up to you. If you want to replace it on your car and you have the money for it, then by all means go for it. Alrighty, we are underneath the car right now. So I'm going to show you guys the location of it. That right there, it's a little shock absorber. So I'm going to undo that because you can't lift it up if you don't do that. And of course, we got to undo the big bolt on the engine mount itself. I'm going to do one at a time. It's a little dark in here. That big bolt is up in this hole right here, and actually, I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but there is rubber down in this hole. So I'm gonna have to use my pick and clean it out really good before I can actually get in there and take the bolt out. One more thing to mention on these engine shock absorbers is if you cannot get that little 10mm bolt off from the bottom because it's spinning, you can use a little 7mm wrench, and here in the manual you can see right there, there's a little groove in it. Your 7mm will slide right over it and it will hold it in place. I can't really do it one-handed, but if you look close, it's not gonna, well, you can kind of see it maybe. Right there at the bottom is where you put your 7mm wrench just to prevent it from spinning, and then the 10mm bolt should come out pretty easy. It was too hard to film this while I was underneath the car, but basically this big piece of rubber and a small piece and a couple others were blocking the access to this bolt from the bottom that I tried to show you guys. So I had to pry that out, use the little pick, clean it up. You really want to make sure the inside of this is clean so you don't strip it out. Once I got that done, this bolt came out real easy. And then this is what's on the bottom of the shock absorber, little 10mm bolt, and with the 7mm wrench I was able to prevent it from spinning and get that off pretty easy too. So now we're about ready to lift up the engine. I got a block of wood to kind of distribute the weight a little better. You don't want to do this without putting a block of wood on your jack, because you could put a hole or dent the oil pan there. But if you use the block of wood, it should be safe, and you're just gonna have to be really careful watching up here. You might have to like move this around a little and keep a close eye on that back there, make sure nothing gets bound up. And basically what you will be looking for is for just enough room down there to take that little plate off. That's what I'm talking about here, to take that off. Once it's lifted up just high enough that you can slide that off, then you can go to the next step and take the two small bolts out that hold the engine mount to the frame. I have the engine lifted up a little bit. I was actually able to get my hand in there and pull out these chunks of rubber. It looks like that motor mount is in worse shape than I thought it was. This car really wasn't giving me that much vibration for how bad it looks to be. I really could only feel the vibration when sometimes when I was stopped with the vehicle in gear. But other than that, it was actually running pretty smooth, so I'm surprised by how bad it is. But anyway, right where I'm pointing at, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, that right there is one of the 2 bolts. This one on the right, or sorry, left side of the vehicle, as long as you have a long enough extension, you can actually get it from the top like this. Only thing I have to do is clean that bolt off a little with my pick, because it's really dirty right now, and I want to make sure I can get a good grip on it. And then that one is going to be the easiest one to get out, because I can get it from the top. The other one, I'm gonna have to show you guys how I'll do it, and we're gonna get that one out from the bottom. I had to grab one more extension to reach all the way down there, but hopefully you can see this. This goes right to where that bolt is, and I should be able to come out right now without even having to remove that cover plate, at least on this side. So I lifted the engine up just a little bit more, got this shielding plate out. You can see on the bottom, the top is just a little too dirty, but on the bottom you can see there's a V stamped in there. That goes towards the front, so when you install it again, this is how it should go back. So just remember that. And then also I got this little bolt pulled out, so all I have left now, you might be able to see it a little better this time where the engine mount is right there. So just one more bolt on the other side, and without that shielding plate in place, it should be a little easier to get to. I'm working on trying to get that second bolt out, and I had to use this pick a lot because there's really a lot of rubber and grease and all sorts of stuff that was built up into there. I just really couldn't get my tool in there. I was gonna try and use this one just to break it free at first, but I just couldn't even get it in there. Just so conked up, so that took quite a bit of time just trying to clean it out. Then I did use this one to break it free. You can either reach in from the bottom or from the top on this side. I think it's the other side that's a little harder to get to, where you have to go to the bottom. And now I'm not sure, I'm just hoping I could show you guys here. I'm using this little tool here to turn it and get this last bolt out here. I'm not sure how well it's showing up on camera though. Finally got the motor mount out. This little bolt in the back was hard to get to, and you can see it's so broken down in here, like all this junk was in there. It was just hard to clean out the top to actually get to it. Plus it's in a location where you can't really see it, so that was a little more challenging than the last one I did. And actually this motor mount looks to be just about as bad, if not even worse, than that other one I was showing you guys as an example. Both of these came out of the left side of the car, and where these are mounted, they are right below the fuel pump, the hand primer pump. Let me grab the light here. You can see I changed this one out. If you have the black style, like, oh, my hand's in the way. If you have the black style like that, it's a newer style Bosch fuel pump. Usually if you have the old style still, they often leak, and that's what causes these motor mounts to deteriorate as much as this one did. It looked like it is probably still the original. There's a little Mercedes logo right there on that side, so yeah, definitely time to change these out. I'll show you guys the other side here. I'm gonna put a new motor mount in this side first. I like doing them one side at a time, because that way if you undo both sides, then it gets really hard to line it back up. So I'm gonna do one side at a time. I'm gonna put the new motor mount in here, and then we'll go on over to the other side. I got the new engine mount installed. Both bolts are tightened back down. It was a lot easier than taking it out. Use the shield. I got that cleaned up nicely. Put that back on like that. The V there is pointing towards the front, and now I can go ahead and let the jack back down, let it settle back into place, and tighten the big bolt from the bottom, and then we'll go over and do the other side. I'm working on getting the right side engine mount out right now. It's pretty much the same procedure as on the left. Got to undo the shock absorber, the bottom part, I got it right here pulled out, and then this big bolt that holds the motor mount in from the bottom. Both of those were pretty easy to get out. I did have to use one little trick to get the first bolt that holds it to the chassis out from the top here. You can see it right there, it's already loose. I just used an extension to come in from the top, but with this turbo in the way right there, I did have to use a wobble extension. So you see how this has a lot more room to move around than a regular extension. So that's what I did. And then that little bolt there came out no problem. Now we just got to do the other one from down below the same way as I did on the other side. So here we are, got the engine one pulled out. It is really greasy down there. I'm going to try and clean it up a little before I put the new one in. This one came out pretty easy. I'll show it to you guys here. It's this one. It is definitely starting to come apart. I pulled some chunks of rubber off it on this side, and it's also collapsed a little. What I've noticed doing motor mounts on a couple of these W123s now is that on the right side or passenger side they tend to collapse, while as on the driver's side they tend to just completely fall apart rather than collapse. This one also came from the passenger side and looks pretty good still, it's just collapsed. This one is also starting to break apart. Really the key in doing this was having a little pick to like really go in there in the top and clean this out real good, so that way you can get your tool like all the way seated in there correctly. Tap on the top a little bit, that way you don't strip out these little bolts. And then also having this little tool to use in addition to this, and the little bits on the extension that I have there. This is definitely really helpful to have as well. It would make the job a lot harder without that, because if you're just using this, you have to take it out completely, move it, put it back in, go half a turn, take it out. You know, it just takes forever to do it that way, and it's so hard just to get it seated in there correctly. That's really what takes most of the time on this, is cleaning out the tops if they're dirty and filled with grease and crap. It's just cleaning that out, because you can't really see it from the bottom. You're kind of doing it blindly, and then getting this seated in there. Once you got it broke loose, you can use this one, and it comes out pretty easy. Overall, really not too hard of a job, and it makes a huge difference in how well these cars run and how much vibration you get from the engine. So I'll try and finish this video off with after I got everything pulled back together. I'll pull the car out and I'll show it to you guys running for just a little bit so you can see how smooth it is. Hopefully. Alright, I just started the engine up. This is with the new engine mounts in it. Seems like the engine itself was actually fairly smooth. Vibrates just a tiny bit still at idle, but it's mostly actually the air cleaner housing there that's still moving a little bit. Once I get it off idle, when it's off idle, it is perfectly smooth though. So before I replaced the engine mounts in this car, whenever I was stopped with the car running in gear with my foot on the brake, I could feel a vibration throughout the whole car basically. And that is completely gone now. I took it out for a little test drive. It's nice and smooth. So overall, I'm pretty happy about it. I might look into why that air cleaner housing is moving a little. There is rubber mounts underneath there, and I actually did replace all those, but maybe one is a little loose or something. I'm gonna look into that. And I also might try and make an adjustment on the idle, make sure that is set correctly, although it sounds like it's about right to me. And then there's a rack damper bolt that could cause a little vibration as well when the spring in it wears out, so I might take a look at that as well, but that will be something for another video. This is gonna wrap it up for this video, and I hope it was helpful for someone that is thinking of replacing the engine mounts on these. It is often overlooked on these cars, and usually well past due when they're getting to be around 40 years old. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. And yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.